Hello, everyone. I am so excited. Welcome to the Canine Senior Care webinar, and this is brought to you by WAG Out Loud. And my name is Krista, and I'm the host of the WAG Out Loud podcast, which is a weekly show where we are obsessed with sharing information with dog lovers so they can make well-informed decisions for their dog's health and their well-being. So if you are not part of the WAG Out Loud Unleashed community, I highly recommend that you check it out so that you can be a part of more events like this and get to hear firsthand from experts in the field of canine health and nutrition. And being a member is absolutely free, and you can learn more about the WAG Out Loud podcast, the community, partner products, resources, and more by visiting the WAG Out Loud website. Well, if you're new to this crowdcast platform that we're going to be using, I want to quickly point out some of the great features. And since this is a live video stream, to get the best internet connectivity, it's really best to shut down any other windows that you might currently have open. And you'll see a link at the bottom labeled polls. So if everybody could go in there now and answer the question there so that we can get an idea of how many of you currently have a senior dog, that would be great. Then you'll also notice the chat box, which is in the lower right hand of your screen where it says, "Say something nice." This is not the place to ask your questions, but instead this is where you can comment. So if you can, let's try it out. And please say hello in the chat and let us know where you are from. Okay, while everybody's doing that, next you'll see at the bottom. Hi, Joni. At the bottom in the middle of your screen, Nancy's here. Yay, Idaho. You'll see where you can actually ask a question, and that's where we want you to go ahead and ask a question. So not only can you ask questions there, you can actually see others that have asked questions, and you can even upvote on any of the questions that you see there, which is a great feature. So since we only have an hour of our time with Dr. Katie, we want to really serve everyone. So we'll be answering the most upvoted questions there. So be sure to tag the ones that most interest you. And again, this is where you ask your question, not in the chat. Onward. Okay, so our WAG Out Loud Unleashed communities theme this month has been focusing on senior care, and I am so honored to have Dr. Katie Woodley with us today, and she's going to talk about how best to care for our senior dogs. And she's also known as the natural pet doctor, and she really knows her stuff. Dr. Katie, thanks for leading this super important discussion today. I'd love it if you could introduce yourself and share with everyone why you are so passionate about caring for our older pups.
Great. Thanks, Krista. Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited to get to hear from everyone that's joining us and answer your questions and shed some light on senior care and our pets, because we have a lot of senior pets out there in the US, and this is super important because there's a lot of things we can do to help them thrive and live a long, vibrant life, regardless of whether or not they have diseases. We can institute holistic medicine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my PowerPoint, and we're going to get started. I have some information in here that will showcase some of why I'm so passionate about this. Okay.
You guys can go ahead and ask your questions during the presentation, and we'll answer those as they come up.
All right. Okay, so like I mentioned, and Krista mentioned, we're going to talk about senior care. A little bit about me. I'm Dr. Katie Woodley, the natural pet doctor. I'm on a mission to create healthier pets and happier pet parents through holistic medicine, regardless of location. And that beautiful pup in that picture is my own senior pet who has thrived with holistic medicine. Even though he has some major health issues, you would never know he's sick. So that is a huge goal, is educating pet parents like yourselves about holistic medicine, and that there's other options that we can use and we can integrate into conventional care. So I focus a lot on acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, and nutrition, and how it can help your pet live its best life. So I wanted to start with these two little adorable pups today. The one in the back is Casey, and the one in the front is Levi. And these are two current patients of mine. And Casey in the back is a 16-year-old Shih Tzu that has many health problems and has a heart condition and a collapsing trachea and was having a lot of difficulty breathing. And his pet owner was worried about having to put him down. However, through holistic medicine, we were actually able to get him to a really good place and open up his airways naturally alongside the conventional medicine. And he's doing the best he's done in years. So I wanted to make sure everyone knows that conventional medicine has a place, but we have the ability to integrate holistic medicine to help them do even better. So, and Levi, he gets my care too. He has some liver issues and some anger issues, but he's done well with holistic medicine also. So what we're going to touch on today, we're going to focus on seniors, of course. So what exactly is a senior? What are some of the vaccines for older pets that we need to be thinking about? What are the nutritional needs? So these can change over time as our pets age. And then, of course, supplements. These are a big industry for senior pets. A lot of times your conventional vet's going to recommend those fish oils and joint supplements. So we're going to talk about those and a few others that you can add in to help your pet thrive. And then, of course, what are some of the common diseases that seniors tend to get so that you know what to watch for. So being a senior pet. So this typically will depend on a dog, a cat, their size, and their breed. But usually when they hit 7 years of age, that's when we're saying that they're a senior. A cat's going to be around 10 years. They tend to live a little bit longer. But if you have a giant breed like a Great Dane, then we're looking at 5 years of age because their life expectancy isn't as long. Now, the big thing to keep in mind is that age is not a disease. But like humans, as they get older, they're more likely to develop diseases like osteoarthritis, behavior changes, and just slowing down in general. So we have to keep that in mind. But looking at how do we support them, nutrition is so important along with the right supplementation. And then things like limiting the toxins in the environment and with what goes into our pet's body is a huge focus. So remembering what cleaning products we're using, what products we're using on ourselves, those are all things your pet comes into contact with and that they can absorb and affect their immune health. What are some of the normal changes that can happen with our senior pets? They can sleep more. They can develop cognitive dysfunction. They can develop decreased hearing and vision. They tend to get a bit more gray and white, just like us as they get older. Less engagement with us, house soiling. So urinary incontinence can be a big problem, especially with female dogs. Changes in sleeping patterns. So they might be staying up at night when they should be sleeping. That decreased activity, not wanting to go for walks as long. They can be grumpy if they're touched in certain areas. They might not play as much. You might notice more drinking. They might be urinating more. They could have increased anxiety. And sometimes you notice sudden weight gain or loss. So what does this mean if this is happening with your pet? These can be normal aging changes. However, if you're noticing these changes are occurring suddenly, you want to take them into your veterinarian to get checked out and most likely do some blood work to see if there's something else going on. They can also be a sign of pain, which is a common condition as pets get older and joints start to break down. But there's many other issues that can be occurring, which is why it's important to take them in as soon as you notice something like that. And keep in mind, there are lots of supplements and natural therapies like acupuncture, herbal medicine that you can integrate with conventional that can help your pet or even start with and see if those are enough to get your pet back to feeling great. So how can we improve seniors' immune health? Because for focusing on their immune system and we're keeping that strong, they're less likely to have degenerative changes, develop cancer, and have other problems as they get older. So number one, feeding a whole food species appropriate diet. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. Avoiding toxins and allergens. So we don't want to overload their immune system. And there's a lot of things that we mentioned just before with, the cleaning products we use, the chemicals we use on our own skins. So reducing that toxin burden. Vaccinating appropriately, so avoiding unnecessary pharmaceuticals also. So instead, if your dog is itchy, not using steroids, but what are those more natural things that we can use to keep them from scratching themselves to death? And then using supplements to help boost immune health. And a big one is keeping your pet at an ideal body weight. A lot of pets right now are obese and they seem normal because so many pets are overweight. However, it's the number one cause of disease, degeneration, inflammation in the body. And so learning how to assess your pet's body condition score is super important. So what I mean by that is looking at your pet. They should have a nice tummy tuck from the side, a nice hourglass shape from the top, and you should be able to feel their ribs when you run your hands along their sides. If you can do all of that and they look and feel great, they're at an ideal weight, and that's going to help with their health later on down the road. So wellness exams and blood work. So we talk about twice yearly exams, so every 6 months for our senior pets. And this is really important because they age so much faster than we do. And prevention is better than cure. It is so much easier to prevent a disease than have to go back and fix it. And annual blood work, and I recommend this from year one with your pet. It might seem overkill, but what we can do is we can track trends with the blood work, and we can see if something is still within the normal range and it starts tracking high, like those kidney or liver values, we can potentially fix it before it actually becomes a problem for your pet. So annual blood work is huge. Vaccines. Vaccines can help, but there's an appropriate way to vaccinate pets. Now, senior pets, they usually don't need their core vaccines anymore because they have the protective antibodies, but we can't assume that they're protected. Now, if they've been vaccinated their entire life, one of the things that I recommend is vaccine titers. So that is a blood test that's going to check for the antibodies that are going to protect them if they come into contact with those viruses. So like the parvovirus, if they came into contact with that on the street, do they have enough protective antibodies? So that's what the titer will show. However, with the rabies vaccine, this is still required by law unless your pet has had severe reactions or life-threatening diseases, autoimmune conditions, cancer. In Colorado, we can do a rabies waiver form. And as Krista pointed out on social media today, some of the states are starting to develop exemptions to this and they're allowing titers to take that place if they're showing that they're positive. So yes,
that's awesome.
Slow, but we're going to get there. So that's great. So we're making progress. The biggest thing though, when your pet needs a vaccine, spread it out. Don't do 5 at one time. That's typically what happens when you take your pet in at their wellness exam. That is not going to help with wellness, I can tell you right now. So spread out that distemper parvo vaccine from the rabies, from the lepto, if you're in an area where there is leptospirosis, and don't do it with dental procedures or other anesthetics because that anesthesia is already putting enough immune stress on your pet. And then by putting a vaccine, you're stimulating the immune response and the body doesn't know what to do with that. So if you can, spread them out. All veterinarians can do titers. And we can do titers for parvo, distemper, panleukopenia for cats, and the rabies vaccine. So if your vet's not recommending it, just ask and have a conversation because some veterinarians just don't, it's not a common practice, but they can send it off to the lab. If your pet does need to have a vaccine, they're being boarded or for whatever reason, or their titers were low, you can use detox supplements and homeopathic remedies to help them get through that vaccination period. So nutrition is the foundation for health. This is something I always talk about because we are what we eat. Go the same thing for us. Your pet is going to eat every day of their life. And so it's very important to know what we're putting into their body. Food has the power to transform cells and program the body for optimal health. And it affects the way genes are actually expressed. And this is an area called nutrigenomics. And there's a lot of study and research going on right now, which is really exciting because we can use food as medicine. With the right nutrition, the body can actually utilize its own ability to heal. We have our immune systems are amazing, and our pets' immune systems are amazing. And when we feed it the right things, we can actually help heal disease. So for seniors, what kind of foods do we need to be looking at? The biggest thing is, are they getting appropriate proteins that can be broken down in the body into usable substances? So what I mean by that is a lot of the dog food kibbles out there, especially for grain-free brands, they're using poorly absorbed protein sources like chickpea and pea protein, and dogs aren't able to utilize that as well. And so what happens then is they may end up breaking down their muscle protein, putting extra pressure on their kidneys. And if their kidneys are aging and already kind of working overtime, we may actually send them into some kidney problems sooner rather than later. So that's very important to know what type of protein is being used in the food. Make sure you're adding veggies in. I know a lot of people here do home cooked diets, raw. So they're already introducing a lot of really good nutrition into the food. But if your dog is on a kibble diet, you want to make sure that you're adding vegetables in. The study from Purdue University in 2005 is just astronomical, the results. Just adding leafy green vegetables into the diet 3 times a week, that's it, with a commercial dry food. The dogs were 90% less likely to develop cancer. That's huge. Also, when we're picking foods, we need to think about, okay, what ingredients are being used? Where are these ingredients coming from? Because unfortunately, in the pet food industry, it's not very well regulated. And a lot of these companies don't even know where those meats are coming from. They're just sent there. And how is it processed? Is it a kibble, a raw, dehydrated? That's all going to play a part to how well your pet is going to absorb those nutrients. What brand are you using? Were there any recent recalls? How many recalls have there been? That can clue you into how well that manufacturer is regulating the production of that food. Additives, are the preservatives natural, synthetic? What about vitamin premixes? Does that company know where it's coming from? That's where a lot of recalls can happen. So those are things that when you call and ask your manufacturer that you get your food from, you can actually see if they don't know the answer to these questions, you need to switch brands. And finally, is it a balanced food for my pet? So those are all things to be thinking about when we're looking at food for seniors and food for dogs in general. So supplements, these are going to help support the body's immune system. They're going to help reduce inflammation, improve gut health. They pretty much can support every single system depending on what we're using. And there are a large number of supplements that we can use. So these are instrumental in helping our senior dogs age and do well. So probiotics, this is a supplement. This is a supplement I recommend that most dogs should be on because they're exposed to a lot of toxins. A lot of dogs are on a kibble diet, and we need to support the microbiome and put the good bacteria back into their GI system. So you want to use probiotics that have undergone the most rigorous research. There's lots of brands on the market. ProViable is a great one. The Da Vinci one's a great one. This Biome is another newer one that's fantastic that I use a lot of. There's studies have shown that probiotics along with prebiotics can help with constipation in cats. And this is just one study of many showcasing how it helps the overall immune system. And we can use it for things like inflammatory bowel disease, diarrhea, Giardia infections. And keeping in mind, a bad microbiome is going to affect the entire body because that's where most of the immune system is. So when we fix the GI system, we can actually treat a lot of what seem like unrelated conditions, but it's actually related. So that's really neat. Omega-3 fatty acids. This is one of the #1 supplements that's recommended by veterinarians. And this has a great place for helping joint health, reducing inflammation, can help boost skin health. So if your pet's prone to allergies or dry skin, we want to get them on a good essential fatty acid. So with supplements, it can take a while before we start seeing a result. So whereas conventional medicine, you give a drug, you block a receptor, you tend to see a response almost immediately or within a few hours. Supplements can take a while for it to build up in the body. Usually if you're using a quality brand that's easily and well absorbed by your dog, you're not going to see those digestive issues like fishy burps or the diarrhea. So Nordic Naturals is one of the big companies that I use, and they also have a pet brand. So it makes it really easy for pet parents to dose their pets based on the body weight that's listed on the back. So you want to look at, if you're not using a pet brand, you want to look at the concentration of EPA and DHA on the bottle and combine those. And typically 100 mg per kg per day is your dosage that you use in general. Now I'll use higher doses based on different conditions that I might be treating, but that's a great starting point. And then medicinal mushrooms. These are not the mushrooms that make you see things and hallucinate and all of that. These are mushrooms that actually help your health and can heal the body. And they're very, very powerful. So they have many uses, and different mushroom strains will do different things in the body. And there's a lot of studies that have come out recently with the turkey tail mushroom and using it for splenic cancers. The thing that I like using with medicinal mushrooms for senior pets is using different strains together, because they're going to do different things in the body, and we're going to get a better overall response when we're not necessarily treating just one thing. So there's different types of brands, different types of mushrooms. They can be grown differently. So there's a lot of different factors that go into whether or not the type of mushroom you're feeding or giving in a supplement is actually going to be beneficial. So those are things to think about, because there's a lot of brands out there that don't necessarily have exactly what we want in it that's going to be supportive to your pet's health. And then common diseases. So yes, our pets, as they get older, they are more prone to disease. Remember, age is not a disease, and there's plenty of pets that do really well, and we end up putting them down because they've gotten older, they don't move around as much, they don't feel good, but they never develop some of these. And that's always the goal, to live a long, healthy life for as long as possible, right? Without hopefully any of these diseases. But I want you to be aware of what these are and what to look for, because if we can pick up on the symptoms sooner, we can treat them sooner and help your pet. I wanted to focus on pain, because this is one of the most common things we see in seniors. And so pain secondary to arthritis. What do we want to look for? How do we treat it? Signs of pain. So this can be anywhere from your pet slowing down, stopping more frequently on walks, sleeping more. This can be hard if you have a cat. I know we're talking about dogs, but I wanted to showcase a little bit of cats on there because I know a lot of you do have cats at home. So if your pet is limping, this is the #1 sign of pain that I see in practice. And vocalization, so crying out or whimpering, is on the bottom. Most people think that they need to be crying if they're in pain. And usually most pets are very stoic and they're not actually going to be crying or whimpering. So if your pet's not using a limb, or you're noticing a limp, your pet is in pain and you need to get it checked out, because there's a lot of different causes of pain. If your pet's hesitating to jump into the car, your dog's not jumping on the bed anymore, or you notice that they hesitate, the hesitation where they back up, they stop, they go forward, they nope, can't do it yet, and they go back again. Like, they look adorable doing that, but that can actually be a sign that their joints are hurting. If they're moving around, laying down heavily and groaning, heavy panting, these can all be signs of pain too. They can also be signs of something else going on inside of them. They might also become less affectionate, or even segregate themselves to another room if they used to be social. And some animals will even become aggressive if you touch them in certain areas that are painful. So if If you're seeing any of those signs, definitely get it checked out. Make sure that we know what's going on, because it's easier to treat things that we know are happening, right? But what are some of the natural ways that you can help your pet with pain? Of course, rest and massage is great. And these are things you can do at home with your own pet. A nice gentle massage. Now, if your pet isn't tolerating that, don't force it, because there's some types of pain, just like us. I don't necessarily want someone massaging if it's really, really sore and painful. So keep that in mind with your pet. And as we mentioned at the start, diet and weight loss are huge. So making sure your pet's at an ideal body weight and they're not overweight. So fat tissue isn't stagnant. It doesn't just sit there. It actually releases inflammatory mediators that make inflammation worse in the body. And so if your pet's overweight, they're not only getting more inflammation in their body, that extra fat is putting more pressure on the joints too. So getting that weight off is huge, number one. And then if you're feeding a diet that's appropriate to them and providing them with extra nutrients and vitamins and antioxidants, that's super important versus feeding a diet that's actually creating more inflammation in the body. Essential oils are a huge place too. And I make a lot of recommendations for essential oils to help reduce inflammation, help with the pain, because they're a very powerful medicine. CBD is another option that you do have. We don't talk about it during this presentation, but that's something that I discuss a lot with pet parents, because dogs are very receptive to CBD and utilizing that to reduce pain. And then, of course, your nutraceuticals and your supplements play a huge part. And those are going to play a huge part in the prevention of inflammation and pain occurring. So this, if you followed me, I show this a lot because it's a very simple, easy essential oil pain recipe. So 1 drop of helichrysum, 1 drop of myrrh, 1 drop of copaiba, 10 drops of carrier oil, mix it all together, put it in a gel capsule. You can give that orally. I use this for my bigger dogs, and you can dose this starting, 2 to 3 times a day. Always start with your lower doses, work your way up. If you have a cat or a smaller dog, what I recommend is putting a drop of copaiba in the drinking water and ensuring that you're using a metal bowl or a ceramic bowl, because you don't want to use plastic, because the essential oils can combine to the plastic and degrade plastic. But that's a great anti-inflammatory essential oil that's very safe. And one of the brands that I love is Animal EO. So Dr. Melissa Shelton, check out what she's doing. She's a great resource for safe use of essential oils. Her oils are safe for dogs and cats, and she's been doing it for a long time, and she's a veterinarian. She's fantastic. So definitely check out Animal EO. Acupuncture. I love acupuncture. So my dog was my first patient. He was my first test subject when I got certified 6 years ago. And I try to use it on every single animal I see, because it can work for almost anything. And pets do really well. If your pet has not had acupuncture and you're dealing with pain, inflammation, low appetite, if your pet's going through cancer treatment, it can make them feel better. There's points for anti-nausea to help, if they're vomiting. There's points to help the GI system. There's so many uses for acupuncture, and it's safe. And most pets, and especially dogs, actually love it, because what's happening is those needles are stimulating the release of endorphins and natural opioids, so natural pain medicine for the body. And the endorphins are helping them calm down. So a lot of pets will actually go to sleep while they're receiving treatment. And as you can see in the middle patient of mine, Tucker, a lot of them get a frozen baby food concoction. It's just a positive reinforcement and treat for them. So I'm pretty sure most of these patients see me as a baby food when I walk in the door and get really, really excited. But definitely keep acupuncture in mind for your pets, especially if you're dealing with something like pain. It's one of the common uses that we use acupuncture for. I did throw in cats. I know this is about dogs, so I'll go through this fast. But kidney disease in cats, this is a really common issue. So if you're noticing, once again, changes in your pets, weight loss, drinking more, peeing more, this can be the same signs for dogs. You need to go into the vet and get blood work done. So there are supplements that you can use. They actually have a Renal Essentials Canine. So I'll touch on that a little bit, even though you're seeing the feline one. The nice thing with this is it's a supplement that's available over the counter. And what it does is it combines those nutraceuticals, those essential fatty acids, along with amino acids like L-arginine that support kidney health, with astragalus, a Western herb that's an adaptogen that supports the immune system, and Rehmannia, which is an herbal medicine that supports blood flow to the kidneys. With putting pets on a supplement alone when their kidney values started to increase, we've actually reduced those kidney values back to normal, which supposedly in conventional medicine, we're not supposed to be able to do that. But I've seen it happen many times with patients of mine. That's how powerful herbal medicine and supplements can be for these pets. And cancer. We have to talk about cancer. 60% of pets will develop cancer at some point in their life. These pictures are my own pets. Those two cats were the love of my life. So is that dog in the top who is still with me. Those two cats both developed aggressive GI lymphoma. Callie, the little tortoise shell, we had to put her down in January last year. And Stanley, the little gray feisty boy, he passed away a year and a half before her. Finn, the German Shepherd at the top, he's 11 and a half years old. You would never know there's anything wrong with him if you were looking at him. He has a brain tumor that was diagnosed in May. The cats, I couldn't do much with them. My dog, I've done everything with him. He's been much easier to treat from a holistic perspective. And so I showcase them because we have the ability to utilize herbal medicine. However, I want to emphasize that it's essential to do as much as we can right from the beginning of our pets' lives to hopefully ward off cancer, because so many pets are prone to developing it. And give yourself grace. We can still do everything right and they can still develop cancer. We never want them to develop cancer, but I've had 3 pets now that have had cancer. And so it's something to think about and keep in the back of our mind. But if your pet develops cancer, there's herbs, there's acupuncture, there's CBD, there's all sorts of things, nutrition that we can use to help. But there's also a lot of things we can't control. And that's why you can't beat yourself up if this happens. Focus on what can we do, how do we support them, and how do we give them their best life until the very end. So on that note, we can do a lot. I want to emphasize that we can control so much of our pets' health, especially as they go from puppyhood to seniors to geriatrics. There's a lot of things we can control and add in and implement. And if you're working with a conventional vet and your pet develops something and you hear there's nothing more we can do, keep searching, because there are things that we can do to keep them comfortable, even if they do develop something like cancer. There's a lot of amazing modalities out there that we can use to keep them thriving. So I just wanted to make sure, if you're not following me, definitely check out thenaturalpetdoctor.com. Make sure you subscribe to our weekly newsletter for free tips to help your pets thrive. We're all over Facebook and Instagram. We have our own YouTube channel. It's just The Natural Pet Doctor. So make sure you follow us because we have a lot of free content on those. And then I wanted to open it up for Q&A and see what you guys have been asking. So I'm going to stop my screen share and close this.
Thank you, Dr. Katie. That was awesome. Appreciate it. Yes, we do have some questions. All right, let's go to the first one. Nancy is asking, how about eye health and cataracts?
Okay, so Nancy, thanks for asking. That's a great question. The biggest thing with eye health for seniors, so one of the most common things that happens with a senior dog is they develop what's called lenticular sclerosis. And that is a normal aging change of the eye where the lens looks more gray. So a lot of pet parents think that their pets are developing cataracts, and they may not actually be developing a cataract. As a vet, when we do our eye exam and we look at the eye with that light and the ophthalmoscope, if it's a true cataract, we won't be able to look through the lens and see the back of the eye. So that's something where make sure that you truly are dealing with a cataract, because it's so common. 90% of dogs are going to develop lenticular sclerosis. They can still see. They might not be able to see as well and during dusk and dawn. But if they do have a cataract or you're worried about eye health, there's supplements like lutein and bilberry that are great for eye health that can help support. Also, using your fish oils are going to help with inflammation. And then if they are developing cataracts, the question is why? So where's that imbalance? Why is that happening? Do they have diabetes? Is there some other condition that's happened that's like maybe a genetic condition? So those would be things I would look at from like a Chinese medicine perspective and say, where's the root problem? How do we fix that? What herbs can we use? And that would be based on an individual. So those recommendations, but there's definitely those supplements, the lutein, bilberry, fish oil that we can use.
Thank you. Okay, Joni has a question. She's asking, what about CHF or any heart issues?
Great question. That is very common in our senior pets. So one of the supplements that I love, and it's another one by VetraScience, is Cardio Support. And it has taurine, L-carnitine, and a few other supplements in it that's really safe to use if you're worried about heart issues. There's a big debate right now with DCM and grain-free diets, and people are really concerned. So this is a great supplement that you can actually put your pets on if you're worried about, you know, my pet's doing great on this food, I don't necessarily want to transition. You know, get them tested for taurine deficiencies first. We can check for blood tests, do that every 6 months. And then you can also use those supplements. So taurine, hawthorn is also in that. Hawthorn is a big one. And then I love using herbal medicine. So Chinese herbal medicine works really, really well. And that's always going to be an individual based treatment option. So there's different ones that we use based on what your pet's presenting with, how they act, other conditions they've had in the past. But there's definitely taurine, L-carnitine, hawthorn are great things to help support heart health. And of course, your essential fatty acids are a big one too.
Okay, thank you. Next, Nancy has another question. She's asking about the benefits of the NutriScan test.
Yes, great question, Nancy. So the NutriScan test. So this is huge. We use this all the time. And this is Dr. Jean Dodd's NutriScan test. So it's actually a food sensitivity test that you as a pet parent can actually order, which is fantastic. You don't even have to go through a veterinarian. I recommend working with a vet, but Dr. Jean Dodds also does consultations with pet parents based on the results. So this is a great test it's a saliva test where you can send it in and it's going to showcase where there may be sensitivities for your pet. And you can avoid those foods that may be causing more inflammation in the body. They may be raising the threshold for allergies. They may be contributing to osteoarthritis because that level of inflammation is higher. So by eliminating those foods that your pet is sensitive to, you can actually help heal the gut lining. And then over time, you can start reintroducing those foods and do your own food trial so that you can make sure that your pet can tolerate those again. And that's where using your supplements too, like fish oil, your probiotics. I use a lot of colostrum for pets that have really irritated gut linings. So there's a lot of things that we can do to boost gut health while your pet's avoiding those foods, but it's really beneficial to know if your pet has a sensitivity. And it's checking the actual antibodies against those foods. So it's a good test to run, and it's nice because it's available to you as a pet parent.
Great. Nancy has a lot of great questions. She's also asking, if we aren't lucky enough to live close to you, what is the best way to locate a qualified acupuncturist in your area?
Great. So there's a couple different ways. So going to the VBMA, so that's the Veterinary Botanical Medical Association website, or the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association website. So that's AHVMA, and I believe it's .org. You can locate people that are trained in different holistic modalities. So you can click the area near you. You can also click what modality you want. So if you want them to be trained in acupuncture, trained in herbal medicine, you can find people that are close to you based on that. So those are two great resources. Also, Chi Institute, so Chi, CHI. That is an acupuncture certification program. They also do herbal medicine. I believe they have a veterinary locator also. So that'll be under their main page where you can go and look those up.
Great. And I just wanted to go back to what you mentioned before in your presentation about incontinence. I know that I've had dogs, male dogs, and the belly bands are great for incontinence. And then for female dogs, I know they have little diapers that you can put on them. So even if your dog is experiencing that, you can make it better by putting diapers or the belly band on them. So
yes, one of the things too with incontinence, there's a lot of supplements we can use that actually mimic estrogen. So female dogs, they tend to become incontinent as they get older, especially when they're spayed, because they lose the estrogen influence. So that urinary sphincter muscle gets looser, and what happens is they leak urine, and the treatment is putting them on estrogen like chemicals or compounds, conventional meds. And there's herbs like red clover and other things that we can use that are the natural component that can help tighten up that sphincter muscle, and we can get really good results with those. So there's a lot of things you can do, but that's a great way to keep them from, leaking all over your house or, creating issues there.
Perfect. Well, if anybody has any other questions, now is the time. Would love to hear from you with your feedback on this webinar. So in the chat in the lower right, please let us know if you found value and if there was one thing that maybe you learned today that you didn't know before that you're going to maybe try to implement or research it more. That would be great. Dr. Katie, we are so grateful to you for enlightening us on how to best care for our older pups. Could you, again, let everyone know where they can learn more about you and all the great things that you have to offer?
Definitely. Thanks again for having me. It's been a lot of fun. So once again, you can find me at thenaturalpetdoctor.com. Doctor is spelled out. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. So we're all over there. And then also you can always give us a call. We're in the Fort Collins region. So that's 970-672-003. But definitely check out our website and you can contact us through that. And we do house consultations and phone consultations wherever you're at. And Nancy actually is one of my clients. I thought that was her. So, and I treat two of her pets, and her pets have done amazing. And she's in Idaho. So we can definitely do a lot for your pet, even if you're not in this area. So thank you once again for having me. I've really loved it.
Yes. And I want to thank you to everybody that's here and is going to watch the replay. Thank you for just wanting to be proactive in your dog's health and happiness. And you might have noticed on the bottom that there's a green masterclass sign up button. And that's at the bottom of your screen. And that's for our free masterclass that's happening on March 5th on natural pain relief for dogs. And Dr. Katie, along with two other experts, is going to be sharing great information about cold laser therapy, acupuncture, and chiropractic. So it's going to be amazing. So be sure to sign up for that. Invite your friends. Space is limited, so we encourage you to reserve your spot early. So I'm excited to see Dr. Katie go into more detail about acupuncture during that masterclass. And just a quick note, I wanted to let you know that I just love being with others that want to invest their time to learn. especially when it comes to the health of our dogs. But I know that when I check out these type of webinars, many times I struggle with the actual implementation of what I've learned. So at Wag Out Loud, we just want to make it easy for you to implement the takeaways and just to take all the noise out of the overload of information. So I encourage you to keep the conversation going. Join the Unleashed community, and if you haven't already, and we want you to bounce these conversations off of the experts and with each other. So if you guys are interested in the replay of this webinar, it's at the same exact link and URL that you had before. And a really cool feature is that you can go through all of the questions that were asked, click on the one that most interests you, and they are time-stamped. So you'll automatically be taken to the point in the webinar when the question was answered. So share it with your friends because it's great information. Unfortunately, all of us and our dogs become seniors one day. So again, I just want to say I appreciate all of you and have a tail wagging day.
Thanks, Krista.